Okay, I have some beef with GoPro apparently because I use my GoPro to film. For right now, it's just small and easy to set up and like I can see it on my phone. I just started recording and talking and it just stops recording. Like it's been doing this all of a sudden. So number one, stop that. That's annoying. And also, why is it so hard to put an SD card in? I have no fingernails. Please, let me use my nubby fingers to push it in. I have to grab like a bobby pin every time to get the SD card in and out. And I'm sick of it. Thanks for listening.
Cease to identify with the ego.
That's not what I'm here to talk about today, though. I'm sitting down to do my makeup. I figured I would just talk to the camera because it's funny, I'll literally just talk to myself when I'm doing makeup if I'm alone, but may as well record it so I can make a video out of it, you know? Talk to you guys. I have stories to tell and things to say. Maybe today I'll talk about... Let me have a thought. You know what? I'm just gonna talk about the drastic life decisions that I've made within the past few years. Because I was just talking to one of my friends about tarot cards and she pulled the Tower and she was saying how she was scared and I was saying how the Tower is my favorite tarot card, like #1 favorite, and my second favorite is Death. And that's because the Tower is like forcing you to listen to the messages from the universe. Like the Tower is like, I'm going to destroy your life if you don't take control, okay? And I need that kind of reinforcement. Like I need that. And it's happened a lot this past year with like me needing to destroy old beliefs and like just paths that I was trying to make work for me that just clearly weren't meant to be. So I love it for that reason because there is beauty in destruction. Like sometimes you have to destroy everything you know to make room for something else to grow. Look at me, I'm a poet. Speaking of tarot cards, it's been over a year since I started reading tarot cards. This was my first deck, and I still use it all the time. I love it so much. And I obviously started reading for myself first, just to get used to the cards and to like see how tarot reading is. And it really changed my life, and it made me realize a lot about myself, and it helped me journal too, because I stopped going to therapy when I moved, but I still need it really bad. But the thought of like trying to find a new therapist in a new place like is so stressful to me because I want to get the right one, you know? And so tarot allowed me to just journal about what was going on, and then I would find myself, I would wake up in the morning with something on my mind, and then I would read my cards, and it would like confirm what I was already thinking about. I would wake up like thinking, I don't even know how to explain it, but you just wake up with something on your mind and then you go to your cards and you're like, oh, that's why this was on my mind. Like recently I woke up and I was thinking about nightmares and my childhood fears and like where they came from, and just like when you start to think about these things, it's just like natural shadow work. And so I was thinking about like, where did my fears come from? Am I still afraid of these things? And then like I read the cards and it's like telling me, let go of your fears. Like there's nothing to fear. You have grown and you have moved past this. You don't have to be afraid anymore. So I thought that was cool. Maybe I'll talk about my fears. Should I talk about that? It's hard to do my makeup while talking. I didn't really think about that. I guess I'm just going into like auto mode on my makeup. So I'm gonna dive in and just talk about my childhood fears. Like just going back, revisiting why I was afraid of what I was afraid of, how it affected me as an adult, and how I'm moving past it. Because maybe it could help somebody else. Maybe, I know there's people with the same fear, so I'm just gonna get right in. So my biggest fear my whole life is blood. Just blood. Like if I see it in a movie, it makes me nauseous. Like learning about it in school, learning about the human body in school made me nauseous. I didn't watch scary movies for the longest time. When I was a kid, I wouldn't even watch movies with real actors and actresses in them because I was too afraid that I would see blood or violence of any kind. And so I only watched cartoons for a little bit of my childhood there because I was just too scared that I was gonna see something scary. And that really stuck with me for years. It took a long time for me to start watching stuff without having to fear like, oh my god, what if somebody gets hurt? So when I was 16, I started watching The Walking Dead. And The Walking Dead is full of blood and gore and violence. But what made me able to do it, does that make sense? The reason why I was able to watch The Walking Dead is because like I was really interested in zombies. I like played zombie video games and I wanted to watch The Walking Dead because I heard good things about it. This is like when the 3rd season was out, and so I just started watching it and just reminded myself anytime that I saw something that it was just completely fake. Like, zombies are fake, like all this is done in a movie set, like it's not real blood, it's all fake. And I would just constantly remind myself, and eventually it got easier and easier to watch, because when I first put it on, like if I knew like someone was gonna get their head chopped off or something, I would just like, you know, for a second. And then eventually I was able to watch those scenes and just be like, look, it's edited. Like, all of this is fake. It's not real. It's just a TV show. And that's what made it a little bit easier for me. But I think when I was a kid, here, let me talk about where the fear even came from. So, why was I afraid of blood in the first place? One day, pretty recently, within the past like month, I woke up and I was just like, oh, I remember why I'm so afraid of blood. So there are two incidences that I remember from my childhood that really freaked me out and stuck with me for a long time. So, story number one. I don't know how old I was. I was barely old enough to remember this, and my parents took me to a Halloween party that their friends were having. It was a family party. There were other kids there, other parents and stuff. And there was a moment where I was sitting in the living room, right in the front door is right here, and a person coming to the party walked in. They had a skeleton mask on and like a big dark cloak, and that didn't scare me. It was fine. But this was probably like the year 2000. And I don't know, these must have been like new, and it was one of those masks that looks like a skeleton, but then if you squeeze the little pump on like that it's attached to, the blood will pour down the face. It was one of those masks. I had never seen one before. I had like So this person walks in wearing one of those masks, and they stand in front of the living room because they want to like show it off. And I'm sitting right there watching them, and they squeeze the thing, the blood pours down, and everyone in the room is like, ooh, scary. And I, being a tiny child, scream like I'm dying and sprint out of the room because I was absolutely terrified. I had just like never seen anything like that before, and it just scarred me. And I remember that memory so vividly, even though I was so young, because I have never been like that scared since. It was like, you know, just one of those moments where like your fight or flight kicks in, and I was like, nope. And this was one of those memories that I hadn't thought about in so long. And as an adult, it's interesting to look back on because, you know, if I was older at that Halloween party, I probably thought that was so cool. Like, they came in with the intention to surprise everybody. Like, as an adult now, I would have been like, that's sick. But as a child, I was terrified, and like I kind of relived the memory, and instead of like being scared, I just relived it as myself now and was like, oh, that was like so cool. The element of surprise like really made that like a Halloween moment. You know what I'm saying? They were just trying to make a really cool scary moment at this party, and they succeeded, but I was too young to appreciate it at the time. So now, reliving that memory in my head, I can like put myself in little Morgan's shoes and be not so afraid and just be like, look, it's okay, it's fake, it's not real. I know that this person just came in and like did that out of nowhere, but it's not real, and you don't have to be scared because it can't hurt you. So that is like the first memory that I have of why I couldn't even watch TV after that. There's also one more story that is the reason I think why I'm afraid of like violence and blood. This story, I don't even know how old I was. Again, I was just really young, but just old enough to remember the fear part and just old enough to remember like little bits and pieces. This memory is actually harder for me to recall. I don't know which memory came first, to be honest. But again, this was probably when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And my parents, I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid. Obsessed. And so my parents were taking me to the Field Museum in Chicago to go see the like animatronic dinosaurs. They had like the really big ones. They're really cool. And so my parents take me, we're all excited, and for some reason, when we walked into like the dinosaur section, the very first dinosaur was a meat eater ripping the head off of another animatronic dinosaur. Like, you can see it just ripping the head off. It's bleeding. Like, the first thing when you walk in, so I was scared. And I felt like, looking back on this memory, I feel so bad for my parents because they were trying to like have a fun trip for me. And I walked through the whole rest of the museum after seeing that dinosaur with like my eyes down. Like, I wouldn't look up because I was too afraid to look at anything. Like, it ruined the museum trip for me. And then they were like trying to get me to do other interactive things, and I would like glance over at the one dinosaur that was eating the other one, like just to see it again. It was just so scary to me. So those are the two events that caused me to fear blood and therefore fear movies for a long time, which is sad because years and years later, I realize I'm actually obsessed with movies. I love them. And it makes a lot of sense because my first dream job was to be a paleontologist. That's how obsessed with dinosaurs I was. That was my first dream job. My little 3-year-old ass would say, I want to be a paleontologist when I grow up. And then my next dream job after that was to be an actress. I wanted to be... So my second dream job was to be an actress. I wanted to be on TV. I literally wanted to be a movie star. And that came out of like nowhere. I don't know where that desire came from. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, I'm obsessed with movies, TV shows. Like I love the art of like filmmaking and even writing. Like I would love to write something too. Like I'm just obsessed with everything cinema and like film. And I wish I would have like done something related to that, you know, like as a career. And it's not too late, but it's just sad to think how scared I was to watch movies. Like I was scared to watch movies. They're not real. But I think the reason why I was so afraid as a kid was because there's a little piece of me that knew the movie is not real, but that doesn't mean that this couldn't happen. I wasn't afraid of like scary movies, like ghosts or whatever. I was only afraid of blood. So I was afraid of like movies with gore, like slashers, like anything violent. That's what I was afraid of. And so, you know, if a movie is super violent, yeah, I know that the movie itself is fake, but like violence like that actually does happen in the world. And I think as a little kid, I was just really aware of that. And it made me uncomfortable to see that reality because it does exist, even though it's fake. And even scary movies, like take Insidious is one of my favorites to bring up. Yeah, it's just a movie based on a lot of true events though. If you don't stop, Insidious is based on so many true events and so many different real life experiences. Like astral projection is a debated topic, but it is 100% real to so many people. Same with demons. And so, like, that idea had to come from somewhere. Like, yeah, you can say demons don't exist, but the idea came, and many people do believe in demons, so I don't know where I'm going with this, but, like, I think there's a little bit of truth in everything. And now, I can appreciate that. So anyways, thank you for listening to me ramble, and if you like hearing about my personal realizations like this, or like my tarot readings or anything like that, I would love to share more. I have a ton of experiences and just like realizations that I've gone through this year that I feel like have really impacted me in a good way. So if this is something that you liked listening to, definitely let me know. And if you have other things that you'd like me to ramble and talk about, please leave them in a comment, because I am here to talk about anything and everything. I want my channel to just be a safe space where we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. So, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.